It's the most magical opportunity to take a step off your real life. Let's look at these markers and then understand, do you have a hormonal issue? Do you have a medical issue? And then take a look at your life and see, how can you change it? So I left Pritikin in January to open up a private practice, and I am currently the director of Body Beautiful Miami, which is a body contouring company here in sunny Florida, Miami, and in addition to a private practice. But I can't stop coming back to Pritikin because it's still, of course, in my heart. I love it. And what Pritikin offers that I cannot is the idea of getting a break from your life, coming in and having an immersive experience, which is priceless. And what we're going to talk about today, getting you some medical, physical, mental health attention that you won't get any other place. So I recently moved from Miami to a little town called Lighthouse Point, Florida. And for those of you who don't know me well, my husband and I are big fishermen. We love to fish, right? I sent you the mahi we caught. And we moved from Miami into a fishing community called Lighthouse Point. And it's a ton of people who fish, which is awesome. So I'm driving, we just moved there literally less than 2 months ago. And I'm driving down the road and I see this gigantic billboard. And it says, the chances of you being in a shark attack, being attacked by a shark, are 1 in 11.5 million. And I'm like, wow, because whenever there's a shark attack on the news, like we think about it.
Big time,
I know, right? And then under it, it said, the chances of having prediabetes, 1 in 3. And I was like, oh my God, here's my people. Like, thank you, we're getting the word out that we line up 3 people and 1 out of 3 people have prediabetes. It's insane. And mind you, if we line up 10 people with a diagnosis of diabetes, 7 of those 10 will die of heart disease. They will die of a heart attack or stroke.
Oh my gosh.
So we have a problem. Americans are not getting healthier. We are not getting better. And it's not just America. I just recently read in China, 500 million people in China, that's half of their population, have prediabetes or diabetes. And it's not, you were saying Japan's not better, India's not better. The rage of diabetes, of prediabetes, it's raging. It's not getting better. We have an epidemic. Well, why? Why do we have the problem? So you know me, I have a bias. It's the food, silly. It's the ultra-processed food that anywhere, everywhere, we are consuming and over-consuming. And when I started at Pritikin more than 10 years ago, I used to recommend a book. It's still a good book. It's called Fat, Salt, and Sugar, How the Food Industry...
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it's still available. Michael Mosley, you can get it on Audible. And it talks about in detail how the food industry, on purpose, hires scientists to see, well, how sweet, how salty, how fatty do we need to get this food so that that food will hit your dopamine in your brain and you'll be addicted to it. Why is it so hard to give up junk food? Because it's freaking addictive. So I want to talk today, and I invited Carol to join me because she's awesome and has all this knowledge on fitness. What's the root of diabetes, prediabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease? What's the one thing that they have all in common? And that thing is insulin resistance. When you're overweight, that isn't really the problem. That's not the cause of it.
It's like it exacerbates it.
No, well, it makes it worse, but it's an effect. If your blood pressure skyrockets, it's an inflammatory response in the body. And it's pretty crazy that when people come to Pritikin, we identify the problem immediately. So let's talk about insulin resistance, okay? So what is it? Well, our bodies, we can't just handle food. When we eat, our blood sugars go up, and that's a good thing because cells need sugar. And what happens is the body will say, okay, blood sugar's up, you ate a meal, and we call out to the pancreas to secrete the hormone insulin. Insulin comes out from your pancreatic beta cells and says to the body, okay, guys, let's go. I'm going to open up a key, unlock the key to open up the gate so the cells can access sugar, because that's what the cells need. But some people, actually, when the insulin's secreted, they are resistant. The cells resist it. And that key, right, it gets sticky. But the body still needs sugar. And the body goes, I need the sugar. So what, you must have not gotten the message. Clearly, you didn't secrete enough insulin. I'll have you secreting more. So those pancreatic cells get super stressed out. They keep secreting and secreting. And as people gain weight, particularly in their gut, in their belly, that belly fat, that fat is what makes it worse. So no matter how you lose weight, we see it getting better. But the crux of insulin resistance causing high blood sugars, diabetes, inflammation, cancer, why is it that when people had COVID, they had a bad outcome if they were obese, if they had diabetes? Because it's an inflammatory response in the body. So understanding that a high blood sugar, a high hemoglobin A1C, that's a result of this insulin resistance for many people. And the problem is you don't know you have it based on general markers. You can have a normal blood sugar. You can have a normal A1C. You can have insulin resistance for years and not know it. One way you know you're insulin resistant is if you're really strict with your diet, whatever that is, and you're working out like a mad woman or man, and you do great for a month, and then all of a sudden you plateau, the dreaded plateau. That's usually an insulin resistant person who's plateauing. So understanding that measuring insulin resistance, looking at metabolic health so that we can get diabetes reversed, that we can get obesity reversed, and do it in a way that makes scientific sense, evidence-based. So when you come into Pritikin, they test two things that really show you where you are. One is your fasting insulin. Two is your HSCRP, that C-reactive protein that is showing inflammation in the body. When that's going up, when insulin is high, we know we have a metabolic problem. So I love to talk metabolic health, and diagnosing metabolic health when you come into Pritikin is great. So now you know you have a problem, right? And we know we need to make the body less insulin resistant, and what we think about is more insulin sensitive. And that's, Carol, where you come in. How can I go into the gym and make my body less insulin resistant?
I think there's two ways. You know, we talk about cardiovascular activity, and it's such a big part of our program at Pritikin. You do it every day. And there are so many reasons. There's a plethora of reasons, but you know, one of the reasons that we require it, or that we believe in it so much, and the science tells us this as well, is that it helps your body. It helps that, what I call your metabolic furnace. It helps fuel that furnace that might have been a little sleepy, because now you're challenging your body to do more than it's been used to, challenging your heart and lungs in ways where, as you're taking in the oxygen, you're breathing harder and faster, it's gonna bind with all your energy sources. Anything you have stored in your body is gonna start to be utilized, and you become a better, to fuel the exercise, and you become a better metabolic, you're a fuel. You become better at getting more metabolically active. So,
and metabolically healthy.
And
right?
metabolically healthy. So we see, the stimulation of heart and lungs in cardio activity. And as I said, it taxes the metabolic system in the beginning. But then when things start to adapt, it's amazing. Like day 3, we start to see this you become so much more metabolically active and better at becoming metabolically active. So you're better at utilizing those energy sources that you have, using them in ways that support better metabolic health.
And what about mental health? Like, it's your happy pill. Thinking about, why do people eat the food they shouldn't? Seriously, am I really going to eat a Pop-Tart? Am I really going to eat junk food? Let's face it, we've eaten junk food. Why? Because we want that dopamine hit to our brain. It's addictive. For the moment, it tastes great. And exercise.
No, I talk about,
right?
I talk about the endorphins, that you used to hear about from all these runners. They're alive and well. They are very much, and they are huge motivators. It's just like an addiction. They're huge motivators. Once you realize how much better you feel, once you start to experience, maybe day 3, you wake up and you feel like, wow, my energy's, I feel like getting out of bed today. I actually feel like getting out of bed. And you know what? I think I'm excited about exercise. So it takes us
amazing, right?
But it's just week after week I see it happen, and it's just such a gift, because you have to do it. You have to feel it to believe it. You have to experience it. I feel like our guests that come are very savvy.
So both the strength training and the cardio help the body be more insulin sensitive. And remember, the whole idea of insulin resistance means insulin is going to make your body into a fat store. That's what insulin does, helps you store the fat, right? So we want you to be a fat burner. And to your point,
cardio, but also the strength training, to your point. When your lean tissue, your lean muscle is has not been used and it's weak, we call that atrophy, the tissue itself actually shrinks. And that's, to your point, that's where the fat sort of squeezes in there to take up that space, because there's no demands on the muscle. The minute you start strength training, the minute you start engaging those muscles in ways that maybe they haven't been for a while, they start to push out that fat that's in the actual, all this might be surrounding the tissue. The tissue gets stronger, it gets better, and it gets bigger slightly, depending on how you're training. But it becomes, again, demanding metabolic fuel. So we get that metabolic furnace pulled right into those muscles, even more so. So you have your cardio, then you add the strength. You got these 2 big demands now on the body for energy. So the metabolism starts to kick in the way it was designed to kick in.
And I think, to your point, that we need to understand that there's a lot of benefits to exercise, be it cardio or strength training, that have nothing to do with that little, how many calories you burn.
Absolutely.
We need to get away from that idea that we can outrun our fork. We always say that. And where I work now, we say we have a magic machine that can remove fat, which it can, but you can out-eat the machine too. So we've seen it happen, unfortunately. And back to looking at, how can insulin resistance, how can you change the game? Well, first of all, you as a consumer can understand what your metabolic health is like. What is your fasting insulin? What are your triglycerides like? What's your cholesterol pattern? What's your blood pressure? Again, very easy to come into Pritikin and they do that all for you. It's so amazing. But understanding that the cure, and there is a cure, you can be an insulin resistant person and change that tune. It's not like you have to live with that all your life. And the way you do it is, number 1, you got to get rid of the ultra processed foods. There's no exercise, there's no meditation, there's no yoga that's going to be able to combat those ultra processed foods. So that's step 1. Obviously, you're going to fine tune your eating and your exercise to your individual goals, your individual health situation, but getting your food where it needs to be. Thinking about bringing exercise, both strength and cardio, into your life. And as important, where is your sleep and where is your stress? We have people who are pounding away at the gym and not getting results. Well, why not? Well, that's a talk for another day about cortisol and the stress hormone. So our bodies can hormonally change as we age, as we have medical conditions, and those changes can affect us in pretty frustrating ways. But I will challenge anybody who knows that they have a diagnosis of prediabetes or diabetes, or they're really fighting with weight, look into insulin resistance. Look at that as that root cause and figure out, again, come into Pritikin.
Yeah, well, what you need to do.
I keep saying it, but honestly, it's the most magical opportunity to take a step off your real life and come in and say, okay, look at my labs. You're not a lab rat. You're a person, but let's look at these markers and then understand, do you have a hormonal issue? Do you have a medical issue? And then take a look at your life and see, how can you change it?
How can you adjust it? I feel like it's reiterating once you know so much more. And I feel like the Pritikin system, like day one, when you do all your labs, you learn so much more about yourself. Then you're more empowered to make the right choices, because it's really just about choice. It's lifestyle, more,
Agreed.
how you sleep, why your life is so stressed, and really taking a deep dive into all those things. And I think Pritikin's so great because they've got the behavioral psychology department.
It's all at your feet.
Yeah, but not only that, it's like it addresses those 4 components of lifestyle: sleep, eating, moving, and stress. And those things are very much under our control, but it's just taking that control and feeling empowered to do it, not being intimidated. And I think it can be very intimidating coming to a place like this.
Right.
You don't know what to expect. It could be more challenging in ways you didn't really understand. But the minute you get here, you're here. And that's where we start.
And when you're younger, when you're not 20 or 30 or 40 or 50, it can be extremely scary to think, oh my God, for the last 50 years,
I've been doing this.
I've lived like this, and I've eaten. And, it's not just your birthday, Christmas, or New Year's. It's the day-to-day, literally marketing, social media. Of course, we're a part of social media too, but we're being thrown into so much confusion. Should we eat carbs? Should we not eat carbs? Should we watch fat? But the truth of the matter is, I promise you, I've been doing this for 25 years helping people. There is not one plan that works for everybody. And figuring out, based on your lifestyle, and not being overwhelmed with, oh my God, are these 2 women telling me I need to fix my sleep and my mood and my exercise and my food? Yeah. And we're saying, like, not today.
One step at a time.
Exactly. You know what? When I work with people, when I coach people, one of the things I do is they send me a picture of their food when they eat. Oh. And it's a hard time of year now. It's always a hard time. And one of my clients said to me, I'm really trying. And I said, it's literally one meal at a time. It's not even one day at a time. It's one meal at a time, making a choice from a place where you are driving the bus with food. The food isn't somehow has power over you.
And there's no right or wrong to that. I mean, because it isn't a diet, it isn't a program that you're on that you went off of because it's Christmas. No, it is that choice of deciding, well, I'm going to a Christmas party and maybe I'll have some soup and salad before I go, but I know I want to have a piece of Aunt Jane's carrot cake. So I'm going to have that. And then tomorrow it will be my new day and I start again.
Or maybe you're not going to have that because you have decided that the addictive nature of carrot cake does not work for
no,
you.
but maybe you're going to have a roll or something, something that you enjoy.
Right. Like, I just feel like we need to separate being hungry, because that's never okay.
Yeah.
And if you've been a dieter all your life, which I certainly have been all my life since birth, that's another story. Literally, you're used to being restricted, restriction. So we really want to take this and stop this kind of, what should we say, this mantra. You have to punish yourself. No, you have to give yourself that love. So back to kind of bringing it all together. If you are suffering, and we know it's suffering, with any blood sugar issues, if you've been diagnosed or you suspect, you can come to Pritikin and figure it out.
I love that about this place.
I love it too. So I want to tell you that, as you know, I can't stay away from Pritikin. And I'm so thrilled to say that I've been invited back to do a master class in January for a deep dive into insulin resistance, hormones, how to lose weight without being hungry. So if you're going to be at Pritikin, I do this lecture a few times a year. I would love to see you, meet you.
Oh, yes.
And and I want to just say that this is something that we can solve. It's not a mystery. And that's what we love about it.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great, Kim. And we're doing this program called Jumpstart in January.
January Jumpstart.
January Jumpstart. And it's just every day there's a different activity and event, special event. And we do a lot of these now, which is really exciting. So you get a chance to participate in any way you like. There's a panel I'll be part of for fitness and wellness. There's more information, obviously, from you in nutrition, and we've got just some really great speakers and presentations that are a lot more interactive and not just like you're sitting in a lecture. I think it's going to be a great way to start January. So thank you so much for coming. Happy holidays.